Now we are going to look at web reconnaissance, an example of it using Python. And so we are going to start by choosing a domain that we're going to do reconnaissance on. In this case, it's going to be my own website because I don't want to mess with anybody else's access logs or alarm them unnecessarily. And so we're going to say domain is evgenyrahman.com. And we are just going to use that requests module, and we're going to send a request to it, and we are going to try a couple of different things. So we're doing one where we're doing request.get, and we're just doing HTTP plus domain. Okay, so HTTP evgenyrahman.com. So that works, and then we're going to do another one where we do HTTPS. So we're going to check for SSL. So we're going to do requests.get and then HTTPS. And there we go. So nothing's blowing up, no errors. So far so good. And so what we're going to do is we're going to say if SSL result equals 200. So if the status code is 200, which means, of course, successful request, then we are going to say that uses SSL equals true. Else, we're going to say that for this domain, uses SSL equals false. And what that means is we're saying there is no HTTPS version. So here we go. If SSL result equals, so this is a common mistake. You have to do double equals. And then here we go. Now, what else can we say about this? We can say check to see if the result that we get back, and in case you want to see what the result looks like, here, let's print it. So the result just will have the body using this text property here. So here we go, we get back all the content of my main page. So that's what we're targeting. So we'll see if result.text contains, let's say, link rel equals style sheet. So if it just finds this much here, and we can see that it's in there, then we'll know that they're using a style sheet, right? So we can say if we find even one reference to this, so if find returns greater than -1, if find returns a position of the characters in the file and not -1 meaning not found, then we want to have it be uses CSS equals true, else uses CSS equals false. So the thing is, we can actually make this a little simpler because we can just check this condition and have that itself be the result, right? Because if you see, we have these things here. So let's see what I'm talking about here. I'll show you the refactoring in a second. So print uses CSS, right? So here we go. So it's doing the request, so both are true, but you'll see that these themselves are booleans, right? Because this evaluates to a boolean. So instead of having an if, we can just say something like this. We don't need the if statement and the else statement because we're just doing true and false anyway. And there you go, it's working. So we can just keep going, right? So then we do use this JS, and it's going to be similar, where we do find and then we do script, right? We care about script tags. Let's say language JavaScript, just for completion's sake. And so here we say that what we care about is if you find it, if it's greater than -1, so basically if it exists anywhere in the file, then that means that JS is being used. And so we can see if that works. False, and that is correct. I don't have JavaScript on my site, on the main page. So now we actually don't want to just print these, right? We don't want to just have these be a one-off collection of printouts of variables. We want to catalog this, as we talked about, and then that builds up a web reconnaissance catalog. So what we're going to do is actually create a unique ID for my domain. And we are going to use a MD5 digest like we've seen. And we're going to use the domain name as the source of the digest. So let's add our hashlib library. And then we're going to do hashlib.md5. And then domain, we'll encode it to div8. And then here we go, we're going to say hex digest. So we're basically using the hex digest of the domain as the ID, the unique ID of this particular record. And let's try that now. And there's a typo. Life would get so boring without typos, right? And there we go, it means that it accepted it. And so what we're going to do now is we're going to construct a profile, and we're going to do this as a object here, a dict. And we're going to say the UUID is the UUID that we generated there, and the name is the domain itself. And then we have the SSL, right? So we have uses. SSL is the value of uses SSL. Uses CSS is the value of uses CSS. Pretty repetitive, but this is just, we're trying to be as clear as possible. And there we go. So if everything works correctly, we don't see any errors. Now we just want to see what's in this profile, right? And there we go, there's our record. So for every domain that we analyze, so suppose if we do environment.net now, which is another site I have, we'll see it produces a different UUID. And of course, we can also encode this into JSON if we want. We can add import JSON, and then we can do basically a JSON version. And then let's bring this up a little bit. Yeah, so we can do a JSON encoding of this. And then if we want, we can post it to an API, or we can write it to a file. But the basic idea is we now have a nice little record of the web reconnaissance we did.